Welcome to the Trash Heap. I'm Trash Puppy. If you've never been here before and you're confused about where you are, this is where I talk about my experience learning how to code. If you've been here before, welcome back. I'm sorry that it's been so long, but I am happy to see you again. So it's probably been about 3 months since my last video. And in that time, I had my first tech interview, which went well, even though I didn't get the job. I started coding a project for a nonprofit, and right now I'm working on a cybersecurity certification. So your girl's been pretty busy, but enough about that. I'm here to talk to you about Codewars. I want to tell you what it is, why I think you should be doing it if you're learning how to code, and why I did it to learn how to code. So you're probably wondering, Trash Puppy, what is Codewars? Well, this is Codewars. This right here is a Codewars kata. And what Codewars is it's basically a website where you can go to learn how to code by practicing different little coding problems. So I'm going to use this problem right here to kind of walk you through how it goes. The first thing I want you to notice is that this is an 8 KYU. And what that means is that it's an 8 KYU in difficulty. So in Codewars, the difficulties go from 8 to 1, 8 being the easiest and 1 being the hardest, most difficult coding problems. So we're going to start here with an easy 8. The next thing I want you to notice is that this is JavaScript. The cool thing about Codewars, and there's a lot of cool things about it because I will probably say that exact phrase like 10 times. One of the cool things about Codewars is that you can choose whatever language you want to learn. As long as the kata, which is what the problem is called, as long as the kata supports that language, that's the language you can choose. So if I want to learn JavaScript, I'm going to go down here and choose JavaScript. Now, right here is the actual coding problem that we're going to try to solve using JavaScript. So we have create a function that takes an integer as an argument and returns even if it's even and odd if it's odd. So you can see that we have our function here. This part is usually always filled in at the very least because it gives you the name of your function and the parameters that you're going to be getting. And that's important because once you put your solution in, they're going to use these test cases down here to decide whether or not it works. So your function needs to be called even or odd because that's what the test case is going to use when it calls that function. All right, so let's solve this function real quick. I'm going to say if number, can't see, modulo 2 equals 0, we're going to return the string, even, and otherwise we're going to return odd. All right, so we wrote our solution. Let's see if it works. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to press this test button down here, and that's going to run all of these test cases. It's kind of nice because you can see what tests are going to be run against your function, and that can help you kind of plan how to write it out. So let's see how we do. Ooh, I failed a couple of them. So it looks like I got 2. When 2 was passed in my function, it worked. But when 7 and -7 were passed in, it didn't work. So why is that? Let's look. Probably because this is supposed to be capitalized. So you can kind of see, you can use your test cases to fix your code. I think, is that his O I put? Oops. I don't know why that looks odd to me. Get it? All right. So we're going to do test again. Make sure that we pass these easy cases first. Nice, because when we do attempt, they're going to get kind of hard. All right, so the difference between test and attempt is in attempt, they're going to feed you a bunch of random test cases. So it looks like we passed everything. This kata is super easy. If we were to have like a more difficult kata, the attempt cases are going to be freaking weird. They're going to give your function like a million things you didn't even think of, and you're going to find a lot of bugs in your code. So we're going to submit this, and we're going to see what happens after we submit. Brings us to the next cool thing about Codewars. Come on, buddy. You can do it. All right, here we go. Once we've submitted our solution, we can see how other people have solved it. So since you just solved it, it's gonna be fresh in your head, right? Now you can take what you've done and compare it to everybody else. And another cool thing about Code Wars is these solutions are usually voted, and that's how they're ranked when they're listed. So you can see that at least 2,900 people thought that this was the best practice solution, and 1,900 thought it was the most clever. I'm not saying that they're right. This is the best practice or it is the most clever. I'm just saying that's what most of these people think. So it kind of gives you a way to compare not only your solution to their solution, but your solution and how most people solve the same exact problem. All right, cool. So now that we've gone through our little Code Wars kata, let's talk about, see, I'm looking at my notes. Let's talk about leveling up. Ooh, I just closed all my notes. Okay, so once you submit a kata, once you submit a solution, you get points for that solution, and that goes towards your rank. I think it's called honor. So you can see right here that I'm a 4 KYU and I have 1,053 points. The ranks are similar to the kata KYU. So you start at an 8 and you can rank up to a 1. And somebody who is a 1 in Code Wars is basically like a coding god, okay? So that's pretty cool. So now you get like the basic idea of how Code Wars works and how you can use it to like learn how to coding. But I want to talk about more specifically why I recommend that you use it to learn how to code. So first things first, if you're brand spanking new to coding, you don't even know what an IDE is, you've never touched a computer, you're not even sure you want to code, you can visit Code Wars and it doesn't matter, you can just hit up any problem and check it out. Coding in general, because they give you this inbuilt IDE, they let you run test cases, it takes away all of the like installing random crap, learning what random crap you have to install, all that extra baggage that you need to try to code. So if you're not even sure that you want to code, you can come in here and give it a try and just have everything basically wrapped up in a package for you with a little bow on top. Everything you need to try it out. So that makes it pretty accessible, especially for people who have never freaking opened a terminal, which was me like a year ago. The other cool thing we talked about a little bit is it has its own tests, and I touched on it slightly, but when you start leveling up in these Code Wars katas, the test cases are gonna give you a good test of your code. So normally, if you've done something like the Odin Project, which is, if you don't know the Odin Project, that's basically a course that teaches you coding by doing coding projects. If you've done something like that, when you do your projects, you kind of know whether or not your code works. It has to at least run. But with this is gonna, especially when you hit attempt, it's gonna show you all these bugs that you never even thought existed. Sorry, I just pulled up some random window that you couldn't have even foreseen. So once you start doing this, you're gonna start learning to what's that word? You're gonna start learning to foresee bugs, and that's kind of like a valuable skill that you're not necessarily going to learn in something like the Odin Project. So let me tell you, it kind of sucks when you submit a solution with test and it works, and then you do attempt and all these random test cases that they throw at you fail because you didn't think of these things. You know what I mean? All right, so that's another cool thing. The other cool thing I want to talk about is that using Code Wars to learn how to code can be really helpful because you can progress through Code Wars at your own pace. So let's go over to practice over here. This is normally how I like to do it. You can choose the difficulty that you want to start at. You can choose, it's going to take a second to load, but you can choose things like, newest katas, oldest katas, popular katas. I normally like to do most completed because if the most amount of people have completed that kata, you know that it's going to be relatively easy. You do get some katas in here that are probably ranked wrong. And that's because the people who use Codewars are the ones that write the katas. So other users are writing these, and sometimes they're not ranked appropriately. But if you go with this safe choice of most completed, you know that most people have completed this, and so it's probably a strong place to start. So that's how I like to do Codewars. Another way that you can do it is if you click on home over here, you get this suggested challenge box, and you can see that with fundamentals chosen, it's suggesting based on my rank and all the katas that I've done that I do a 6. Isn't that nice? You can change this. I think the default is to do rank up. See how if I do rank up, now it's telling me I should do a 3. So rank up is really for if you want to challenge yourself and challenge your skills. Whereas fundamentals is like you want to practice the basics. You want to get through all these like easy things first before you start challenging yourself. But of course, you can flip-flop hip hop all over. You don't have to do what Codewars tells you to do, you know what I'm saying? All right, cool. So one more thing I want to talk about why Codewars is so cool, and it's kind of a big reason that I paired it with the Odin Project, is it's a good way to practice how like your specific language works. So let's find a kata that I've done, and let's look at the solutions, right? So once I've done my solution, you can see I used a ray.map, right? Well, if you go over and you see what everybody else does, you're going to start learning about different methods and inbuilt functions in your language that you had no idea about, that your coding course maybe didn't even teach you about. So I used map, right? I can see other people have used that, but I bet you we're going to find something crazy in here that I've never even heard of. Let's see. So hopefully we find something in here I've never heard of. Let's say you've never used like this syntax. Somebody took an object here, they plussed an index, I assume, forced it together with this value, and turned it into a string and returned that. I mean, that's some crazy shit I've never heard of. That's what I'm talking about. You get in here, you start looking at these solutions, you're gonna learn about your language. What if I never knew what push was or array.for each? I'd be in here like, what? What are these things? I'm gonna go look them up. Maybe I'm gonna redo my kata to see if I can do it even better. So if you do these Codewars katas or you do something like Codewars, it's gonna help you learn your language a lot better than a coding course. All right, cool. So we talked about how you can learn from other people's solutions, but I want to show you an elite way to learn from other people. So we have seen home, we've seen practice. If we go to leaderboards over here, you can see everybody's ranks and you can organize them by language. So let's say you want to learn frickin', I don't know, CoffeeScript. We're going to find the top dogs who code in CoffeeScript on Codewars. Now, once you've found them, you can click on their profile and you can add them to follow. Now, if you go to any kata, let's choose another one that I've done. Probably we'll just do this one again. Once you go to the solutions, you can organize it by the people you follow. So right now you can see my homie Arth. What up, Arth? Shout out to you. Arth is on the stream a lot. You can see that this is how Arth solved this kata. But the same goes for that other person that I followed. As long as I finished the kata in CoffeeScript and they finished the same kata in CoffeeScript, I can see how they did it. And if they're the top ranked in CoffeeScript on Codewars, they probably know something about CoffeeScript. So that's another way that you can learn from people on Codewars. All right, so we've talked a lot about Codewars and why it's awesome, but I don't want you to go away from this video thinking that this is the one true way to learn how to code, because it's not that simple. Coding is all about solving problems in general. So think of Codewars as learning to solve small, self-contained problems that you're probably going to see when you code and you're trying to solve larger problems, like an entire project. So for me, when I started doing the Odin Project and people in stream talked me into doing Codewars a lot, like at the same time, Basically, the reason it was good for me and why I think other people should try it is because coding courses like the Odin Project, they'll teach you the basics about your language. They'll teach you what strings are. They'll teach you what arrays are, blah, blah, blah. But they're not really going to have you practicing those basic things continuously. So it was really helpful for me because as I was doing the Odin Project, I was doing a couple of Codewars katas a week, and I could get practice doing the basics, seeing methods I'd never seen that Odin was not going to teach me about. And in the Odin Project and similar courses where you're coding massive projects, if you think of the projects as just giant coding problems that are made up of smaller coding problems, it becomes a lot easier to solve those massive problems, the projects, when you know how to solve the little tiny problems that make them up. All right, so let's say you only do one or the other. If you just did Odin without doing any Codewars, or you just did a coding course without doing Codewars, you'll probably get pretty good at building a project, but your projects might be sloppy. They might be kind of not efficient, hard to understand, hard to debug, because the little pieces that make up your project, you have not practiced solving those tiny little problems over and over again. So you might be solving them in some weird way. And I'm saying this, it sounds kind of rude, but it's because that's how I did it. That's how I was coding before I started doing Codewars. Now let's say you want to just do Codewars, but you don't want to do Odin or some other coding course, or you're not doing your own personal projects. You'll probably get pretty good at solving small, self-contained little problems like you do with Codewars, but you're not going to be practicing combining problems to solve bigger problems. You're not going to be practicing organizing them into a cohesive product like a project, like a big coding project. So, as far as you know, I could be talking out of my ass right now, but I have an example, a real world example of my coding that I think is going to help me cement this idea in your head. All right, so early in my Codewars days, early in my coding days, early in my streaming and my Odin Project days, I started a redeem on my Twitch chat where people in the chat, viewers, could basically tell me to do a Codewars problem. And one day I found myself doing a 3, and I was a little baby noob. Remember, 1 is the highest, hardest problems, God level, God mode problems, right? I'm a little noob and I'm taking on a 3. So, this problem was Battleship Field Validator. And all it is you get a 2-dimensional array. It's filled with 1s and 0s, 1s being parts of ships, 0s being open water. And all you have to do is return whether or not the battleship field is valid. So does it have the right amount of ships? Are the ships all the right length? Are the ships, ship-shaped? Are they ship-shape? That's all you had to do. But me being a little baby noob, and I think I got this right when I was doing the to-do app in the Odin Project, so I was just learning object-oriented programming. I made it way too complicated. So I want to show you what I did. All right, let's go over here. This is my battleship. This is my battleship solution. You can see that I probably went way too overcomplicated. I was treating this as a project. I was treating it like I was freaking writing the battleship game itself, not just solving for whether the battlefield was valid. I made these huge classes. They keep track of things. So if we look at the fleet keeps track of all the boats on the ocean. It keeps track of all their positions, whether they're valid, blah, 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 where there's open water. I mean, that's cool. It works, but it's pretty overcomplicated. If you look at Bodie McBoatface down here, and I did not name Bodie McBoatface, somebody... I have a redeem on Twitch that allows viewers to name my variables, so not me. Anyway, if we look at Bodie McBoatface is a class that I would use to create boats as I came across them. So if I was going through the ocean, going through my array, space by space, and I came across a boat, I would make a boat with Bodie McBoatface. And Bodie McBoatface knows everything about boats. It knows how long they are, where they are, if they're valid, blah, blah, blah. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, but overcomplicated. I am not taking the larger picture, the problem, and breaking that into smaller problems. I'm treating it like I'm freaking writing Battleship, the game. So, this took me a couple of days. It was overcomplicated. People in chat who didn't know me would come in and be like, why aren't you doing this? People in chat would come in thinking that I was writing the Battleship game. That's how overcomplicated it was. So let's look at somebody who knows what they're doing. This is my friend OdatNurd. If you don't know OdatNurd, he's a streamer. He's an OG coder. He knows what he's doing. I'll leave links and stuff in the comments so you can check him out. This was his solution because he came into chat and basically did it alongside me. Not like I was like watching, but when I posted my solution, he posted his. So let's see what he does. First of all, the comments. You gotta love them. If you don't like comments, I'm sorry for you. Comments are good. Comments are great. Even an OG is using comments, okay? Okay, so how did OdatNurd do this? He broke down the entire problem into little sub-problems. So first off, he's got this map array function that is keeping track of the location of whether or not this location is part of a ship and, you know, whatever. Then he's got this get ship function. Where is the ship? Is it in the right direction? Other things. And then he's got a couple of for loops that go through the map and figure these things out, and a ship list. And that's it. It's solved. He broke it down into a bunch of little sub-problems to solve the larger problem, and it's much cleaner, much faster, easier to read, and probably, honestly, more efficient. Like, if we were to run this, it's probably faster than mine. It's probably uses less energy or whatever. This is how you want to do it. OdatNurd definitely knows to take large projects and break them down into smaller problems. I didn't know that. This is why I'm happy I started doing Codewars alongside the Odin Project. All right, so let's get to the end of this. What should you do? You want to know, hey Trash Puppy, how do I become elite coder? Well, it's like I've been saying, you got to do a little bit of both. Practice solving small, self-contained problems like you would doing Codewars. It not only teaches you your language, its syntax, its built-in functions that you're unaware of, and all of that, but it also teaches you how to problem solve, and it helps you refine your problem-solving skills. Plus, when you're going in to do a project, a coding project, when you break it down into its pieces, it's going to be a bunch of pieces that you already know how to solve because you've solved them a million times. So it's going to make your project that much quicker. And you'll be able to focus on the project at large and not just getting stuck on little parts of it. Okay, so you also want to be practicing coding large projects. You want to know how projects come together. You want to see how to put these pieces together and how they play with each other. You want to learn how the parts can be cohesive. You need both, is basically my point. So think of a coding project as just a large coding problem. Break it into smaller, solvable pieces. Make those pieces self-contained. So yeah, make them self-contained, as in they're not relying on other pieces. They have one job and they do their job. And then practice combining those pieces into larger parts until you've finished the project. As in, all of your little sub-problems, all of your little pieces have built the project. By the time you're done putting them all together, you've got a full project. All right, so in conclusion, if you want to get better at coding, give Codewars a try. I'm super happy that people talked me into doing it on stream. I think that it seriously accelerated my learning. I'll just show you right here. Oops, I can't see. So I'm a 4 KYU now, right? Not to brag or anything, but that's kind of a big deal for me. Top 4.5%. I'm just saying, like, it definitely helped me. I practiced over 9 languages. I've done 137 Codewars katas, and if I hadn't done any of that and just chugged along doing the Odin Project, I don't think I would have learned nearly as well, because there's practicing the small sub problems like I've talked about, but also practicing all the different languages, solving the same types of problems in different languages has given me a better overall understanding of coding and what it is. Because even though they're different languages, they got their different little quirks and syntaxes, they all do the same thing. And just practicing those things over and over again has definitely helped me learn how to code. Even though I'm a 4, it's still difficult for me. Over on Twitch, I'm working on a 4 KYU kata right now, and I'm telling you, it's still freaking hard. I've spent like 3 days on the same one. So that's just the spirit of coding. If you want to get used to bashing your head against a problem until you solve it, this is a good way to do it, because that's what coding is. It's never going to be that you're just breezing through things, whatever. You're gonna, throughout your entire career, you're gonna come across problems that are hard to solve, and you just want to be practiced in problem solving and coming at problems with a different lens, and just practicing solving problems. That's basically all I'm getting at. So especially combining the Odin Project and these Codewars together seriously accelerated my progress through the Odin Project, because like I said earlier, these courses, they're good about teaching you the basics, but they are not good about having you practice them. So because I was doing Codewars while doing the Odin Project, whenever I was tackling an Odin project, I had already practiced doing all of these little problems. And so my focus became solving the big problem as a whole, not getting stuck on every other little tiny problem, because I already knew how to do those. So it shifted my focus, and it helped me get through projects a lot faster and focus on the things that were important for that project specifically. All right, so that's basically all I've got. I hope that someone out there finds this helpful. I wish that people talked about it more. I wish that I could give this advice to every little new coder who's never touched a command line. Because I think usually when you hear about sites like Codewars or LeetCode, which is super similar, HackerRank is also another site that's like this. Usually when you hear about these things out and about, the context is, ooh, I'm trying to get ready for a tech interview. I want to practice for the technical portion of an interview. And that's fine. But I want you to go away. I want you to walk away from this video knowing that it can be more than that. Think of it, instead of just practicing for interviews or whatever, think of these websites as places that you can go to train and sharpen your skills and to learn from people who are more skilled than you. That's really what it's all about. And yeah, okay, that's all I have. So thanks for hanging out. I am still streaming, not as much. It used to be every weekday. Now it's a couple of times a week, but every Wednesday is Codewars Day. So if you want to come check out Codewars, come on Wednesday. I do Codewars katas all day long. After I solve problems, people in chat post their solutions. I go through them live on stream. And I also have a little clan you can join. So let's see I think it's in home. Check this out. You can join our Trash Puppies clan. We're the Trash Puppies. You can see when you do a clan in Codewars, it basically groups you up with all these people. You follow all of them. And then when you're going through your solutions and you click that following to see people that you're following their solutions, all of them are going to show up. You can get competitive with everybody. You can see I'm kind of middle of the pack. People have already passed me up. This is my homie Ruler up here who helped me make this video. Shout out to Ruler. Hey, bubby. So yeah, if you want to join the clan, if you want to find out about Codewars and try your hand at it, definitely come by the stream on Twitch on Wednesdays. I think you'll like it. All right, so last thing. What do you guys want me to do my next video on? It could be anything. It could be cybersecurity, it could be coding, it could be Code Wars. I've got some ideas, but I also want to hear from you, so I'll be looking in the comments for that. Anyways, I hope that you guys like this, and I will see you all later. I think I'm supposed to be in this screen now. I will see you all later. Thanks for hanging out, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.